In the heart of Africa, the savanna and the grassy plains provide a suitable environment for many forms of life, but also for death. Zebras rely on their characteristic vertical stripes to confuse their predators as they flee at high speed. As their appearance clearly shows, zebras are a cross between a horse and an ass, and are to be found only in Africa, inhabiting the eastern and central regions. Not always does the African savanna provide for all the animals that inhabit it. Unfortunately for many of the grazing animals, grass is seasonal, thus they are forced to travel vast distances in search of sustenance. The most characteristic exponent of these massive land migrations is the gnu, which covers the huge distance between the Serengeti in Tanzania and the Masai Mara plains to the north in Kenya, when drought ravages the land. Meanwhile, the insatiable carnivores close in to make the most of the opportunity and satisfy their hunger. Besides being harmless animals, gnus unwittingly constitute a travelling meat larder, which is shadowed closely by its main predator, the lion. Yet not all live in constant fear for their lives. Hippos are, in this sense at least, among the most privileged. They spend the whole day in the water, where they rest, clash, and stand their ground against other members of their species. Normally, they only leave the water at night to feed on the banks of the rivers and lakes they inhabit. Neither are predators a major threat to the giant of the African savanna, the elephant. The largest of all land mammals also has a close relative in Asia, although smaller in size. The elephant may be the cause of its own downfall, here in Africa, where its massive food consumption stops trees from developing normally. An adult elephant may consume between 140 and 200 kilos of food, depending on the time of the year. One should not forget, however, that the human being is the elephant's only truly dangerous enemy, and hunting it for its ivory tasks or for sport has decimated its numbers in a very short period of time. The tranquil progress of the elephant through the savanna contrasts with the permanent state of alert of some of the other inhabitants, such as these Thompson gazelles. Only their acute sense of hearing and their speed ensure a protracted lifespan. Antelopes, under almost constant threat from the big cats, graze nervously and watchfully. Their breeding patterns reflect the need to shorten the periods of gestation and birth. The newly born must fend for themselves from the very moment they are born. Their life depends on it. Any mistake or sign of weakness is swiftly punished by its predators. One of them, the cheetah, bases its hunting skills on speed. It can achieve speeds of over 100 kilometers an hour, and then hurls itself upon its prey to bring them to ground, whereupon it rips out their throats. Yet the most consummate hunter of all on the savanna is the lion, the only one of the big cats to live in social groups, in which the members depend upon each other to ensure the food supply. Its success as a hunter is due to strategy and tactics. Stalking and selecting the prey requires a concerted effort in order to avoid wasting energy. Although not very frequently, the giraffe also falls victim to the lions. It has developed an interesting characteristic within the ecosystem of the savanna, for it reaches where no other herbivore can do so. Its skill at feeding on the leaves of the acacia tree, which are well protected by thorns, ensures an adequate supply of food without undue concern for the height involved. It has its problems, nevertheless, down below on the ground. For example, when it prepares to drink and lowers its head to the water, it's at this moment that its predators, especially lions, seize their opportunity. Above the tall African acacia trees, dense flocks of birds fill the sky. They too are in search of food on the savannah. They all have their role to play, from those sporting bright colours to those less fortunate, such as the marabou. They all have to find the conditions and the food to survive. The large cranes and flamingos, with their characteristic ducking movement of the head as they search for worms and other small creatures, flock to the lakes of Africa to rest and find a suitable place to nest. Other flocks of birds of these same species will do the same in South America on the shores of the high Andean lakes.